Erling Haaland eats cow hearts. Like actual hearts and liver and raw milk. He mixes it into his coffee. And he's putting away something like 6,000 calories per day, which is basically double what a normal guy needs on a daily basis. And the internet absolutely loves this guy right now. It's all over the place. The Viking diet, the beast. I mean, seriously, look at what this guy eats. And honestly, it's super easy to file it under like weird rich guy athlete eating all this weird food. But I actually have been doing some extensive research on his diet and the way he lives. Like specifically how he eats, how he sleeps, how he trains, how he recovers, the whole picture. And I've realized that almost none of the stuff he does is random. It's all intentional and it's all calculated to allow him to perform at his best. So that's what I want to walk you through in this video, because some of it that I'm going to talk about matters a lot more than the internet thinks. So let's start with food, since that's the most popular part right now. So we got steak, eggs, liver, other kinds of organs, raw milk, heart, etc. And I know the organ stuff sounds nasty, but it really is very nutrient dense and surprisingly doesn't taste as bad as you may think it does in your mind. But the actual reason that he does it, and the reason that I recommend you do it, is because of this. Your body builds testosterone off of cholesterol and fat predominantly. Those are the raw materials. So a guy that's eating a ton of red meat and eggs and dairy in his diet is getting as much cholesterol and fat, the good versions of that, as possible. So he's setting himself up to have the highest levels of testosterone. But if you go the complete opposite way and you eat almost no fat and you have very minimal cholesterol, because that's what everyone, especially big pharma, has told us to do, then you're gonna end up having much lower testosterone as a byproduct of that. And the liver specifically, that's one of the most nutrient dense foods that exist out there. It's loaded with zinc and a lot of other vitamins that are essential building blocks for having higher testosterone. So he's not eating hearts, livers, and all these different organs for no reason. There's a specific methodology to the madness. And now let's talk about the calories that this man is consuming on a daily basis. 6,000 calories a day. I feel as if a lot of people may overlook this part, but it's very interesting. Your body's always kind of taking a read on how much food is coming in on a daily basis. And when you're way under what your body feels like it needs to give you the higher amounts of testosterone, right, production-wise, then you're gonna notice these long stretches where you're gonna feel much worse than if you were just properly feeding yourself. And he's made sure that he's never in that position. And the reason being, for those of you who aren't aware as to why your body lowers your testosterone production when you aren't consuming enough food, is because it's not a priority when you are basically telling your body that you're in a famine or you're starving. Your body will just turn the dial down and produce less testosterone to keep you alive. And for Haaland, he's never in a shortage. He's constantly and aggressively feeding himself. Now, obviously, I'm not telling you to go eat 6,000 calories a day and copy exactly what he's doing, but it's fantastic to use as a reference point for yourself to realize that you need to eat more, but you also need to move more. But the principle I want you to take home from this is that if you undereat, then your hormones are going to underproduce. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is what is honestly probably the most overlooked piece of his entire lifestyle and routine, but something that he preaches for and says that is actually his most favorable and important piece of his success. And it's his sleep.
I think sleep is the most important thing in the world.
Haaland is in bed asleep by 9:30 p.m. every single night. He's got his phone off before that. He's got his blue light glasses on before bed to make sure that he's not getting any extra lights coming in that are gonna mess up his circadian rhythm and his melatonin production. He's got red lights on at night to allow his body to calm down, especially his nervous system. And when I hear this, I always think back to the same study over and over again. JAMA 2011 discovered that if you don't get enough sleep on a weekly basis specifically, if you go 5 days in a row with getting poor sleep, like anything under 5 hours, your testosterone can drop 10 to 15%, and it can make you feel like you're 10 to 20 years older, which is honestly insane. And that's just from one bad week of sleep. So imagine a lot of you guys, you've been going years with bad sleep. So that's why I really respect and think it's a great thing that he preaches you have to get good sleep, because I preach the same thing. It should be a sacred routine that you value because you have to recognize its significance, and that if you undervalue it, your hormones are going to take a massive hit. And as a man, we need our testosterone to be as high as possible. And it is, most importantly, the one thing on this list that is $0 to do. So there really is no excuse for it. Now let's get into the fancy stuff. Let's talk about his recovery. The ice baths, the red lights, the 50,000 pound cryotherapy chamber that he uses. And the reason that all this is important for him, and what I've concluded, is that this is affecting his stress levels in a fantastic way. So for those of you who don't know, but most of you do, we have this hormone called cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Stress and testosterone, cortisol and testosterone, are inversely related. So you want to do everything in your power to have your cortisol as low as possible, specifically as the day progresses. It's okay to have high cortisol in the morning, not overly high, but as the day progresses, you want to have a proper natural down curve. So all this recovery that Haaland is doing, which is honestly very aggressive, and you don't have to do any of this, but the big lesson in it is that he's training his nervous system and he's specifically managing his cortisol levels fantastically, which is going to lower inflammation and then increase testosterone so that he gets really high quality sleep and recovers well for the following days. And you just have to realize you don't need 50 grand like he's implementing with these crowd chambers and all these different things. You just simply need to have some way of down regulating your nervous system as the day progresses, so you're not constantly in this fight or flight mode and your cortisol is not constantly peaked. You could do breath work, you can do meditation, you can do some kind of prayer, you can go on a nice walk. There's many different ways to do it without having to spend a boatload of money, which is cool, whatever. If you have the money to do it, obviously do it. But there's many normal ways, natural ways, which requires none of these things. But obviously he's gonna go over the top because he wants to be the best striker in the world. So we've talked about what he eats, how he sleeps, and what he does for recovery. Now let's dive into training. How does he train? And why does it help him with his testosterone production? Now, he obviously doesn't train to look good, right? He's training for power, explosiveness, so that he can be a fantastic striker on the field and perform at his best. So he's doing sprints, he's doing hills, he's doing very explosive stuff. And that explosive stuff is really good for testosterone. It's one of the first things that I have people do when they come to me to work as a one-to-one client is we make sure that we start incorporating a little bit more explosive activities with whatever you can do. Your testosterone responds really well and starts to increase gradually when you start doing some kind of sprinting, some kind of sled pulls or pushes. Anything that's explosive is super beneficial for you guys to add to your routine. Here's where I want to be fair, because I could stop right here and go copy Haaland and say that you're gonna be a beast, but that wouldn't be fully truthful. The guy is obviously 6'5". He's definitely genetically gifted. His dad was a pro footballer. He's obviously a genetic outlier in many different areas before he puts anything into his mouth. He's got the chef and the chamber and the full-time physio at his house all the time. So he's obviously fully equipped because of the scenario he's in. And it's important to realize that even though he's doing all these things that I recommend, like eating his liver, raw milk, etc., these are actually the least important parts. That's the part of obviously being a rich freak of an athlete. And give him his credit, he's earned it, like a ton of it. Like he's built real muscle and he's been extremely obsessive in ways that most people will never be in their lives. But the exotic stuff specifically is not the levers that you guys should be focusing on, is what I'm kind of getting at here. Because when you end up stripping it all down, the parts that actually move Haaland's lifestyle and move his testosterone are extremely cheap and effective for everyone else to do. Eat enough food and get a bunch of fat, get a bunch of cholesterol in, and get your good sleep, train hard, right? These are all things that we can all do. We have no excuses not to do them. You can lift heavy, you can sprint sometimes. Make sure that you don't fry your nervous system on a daily basis by wasting time on your phone, doom scrolling, right? There's so many things that we all have control over, and that's what I want to hit home here. The cow heart, right? This is stuff that I obviously want to highlight, but the going to bed early is the stuff that you should really be focusing on. I'm being super serious with this. And the reason I know this to be true is because it's worked on myself. I've only now, after doing this for so long, trying to optimize my testosterone, decided that it would be important or beneficial to me to implement some of these more advanced techniques, like adding these specific organs or red light therapy or cold plunges, right? But when I got my testosterone from 5'11" to 1369 in 6 months, I didn't have to do any of these things. By leaning on the stuff that I was already doing, but doing it very half-ass, sleep, diet, training, recovery, controlling my stress levels and my cortisol, that's how I actually got it to 1369. I didn't have to do any of the stuff that I talked about in this video that Haaland currently does on a daily basis. And honestly, that's the thing that I really want you to take home from Haaland's diet and all this trending stuff that's going around right now, is that he's doing the basics so well, the unglamorous stuff, even though he has the money, but he's focused more on the discipline and doing all of the basic stuffs perfectly. So you don't need his life, right? Although I'm sure many of you guys admire and respect him, so do I. You just need the parts that were really never about being Haaland in the first place. If you want the actual breakdown and full guide on how I did go from 5'11" to 1369 testosterone without having to eat cow hearts, it's free and it's in the description below. And I'll leave a related video up here for you guys to watch. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.